Thank you for taking your time to look at the Espro 7 feature presentation. When you first run the software, you'll be presented with your estimate list. This can be your estimates, they can be your templates, or you can look at stored estimates that you've previously archived. From the top filter row, we can search for any estimate, especially when you've got hundreds and hundreds of estimates in your system. We can use our filter list at the top to narrow down and search for estimates. We can search by code, by any name or text that's inside the description of the estimate. We can search by client, we can search by due date, by status, and we could even break the estimate search down by estimator. So if I just wanted to show my estimates, I could show the estimates that are for me. To create a new estimate, we can just create a new estimate and fill in the relevant details. For this presentation, I have already created an estimate, ready to go. So to select that estimate, we'll double click on it, and that will open up the estimate. The first part of the estimating process is to give it a code. In the setup file or in your own system preferences, you can choose whether you want to use automatic estimate numbering or whether you want to put your estimate codes in yourself. And that will determine whether you're using a tender register and you just want to continue that next number. So select the client, who the estimate is for, any description that you want regarding this estimate. Select an estimator. You can have a salesperson, or if you wanted to change that, that could be the project manager for this estimate. When is the estimate due? Once you've submitted the estimate, you can put in a submitted date and then even put a follow-up date to flag yourself to follow this up after you've submitted it. The status of the estimate, your base cost of the estimate. We can then go into our summary screen later on after doing our takeoff, and then we can take our estimated hours and we can break those hours up and put our accurate costs in for teams, individual tradesmen, apprentices, etc. Once we put in the basic details, we go to our section. When we first go in, of course, we'll have no sections, and just by going new, we can begin to add the sections or the breakdowns, work breakdowns of our estimate. Once we have built those breakdowns, the way that we want to do it, the way we want to do our takeoff, we can now go into these sections and we can add the items that make this estimate up. So looking at our screen here, the green italics are comments. So we can use comments to break up our estimate to, as you can see in our power circuit here, we've broken up into circuit 1, circuit 2, circuit 3. If we wanted to go into more detail with that, of course, we could go to our power section and we could add subsections at, say, circuit 1, circuit 2, section 3. Espro allows the user to go 4 sections down for each estimate. So for this estimate, we've only gone 1 section down. However, you could go up to 4 sections down. Adding to our estimate has been made very easy. We can just go from our list here. We can add a blank item. A blank item would be a one-off material item, a one-off subcontractor, a one-off piece of equipment that we want to add to this estimate only but is not a part of our material database. We can add straight from our price books, or we can add from our assembly and our pre-built kits section. We can add from our parts list, and we can add a new comment. We also can insert. So if we wanted to insert, we can do the same. Items, blank items, price book items, and we can insert those straight into the estimate. The items that are in bold, by clicking on the plus, so these are our sub-assemblies, these are our pre-built sub-assemblies. By clicking on the plus, we can see what items are being added with this sub-assembly. So if we have a look at our double GPO on plaster bracket with 10 meters of 2.5 cable, we can have a look and we could say for every one of these we're going to bring in a plaster clip, a double power point, an allowance for marking, 10 meters of cable, and 5 cable ties. So when we put the quantity of our subassembly, it will automatically multiply these items inside our pre-built subassembly. So we can see what the total is for the subassembly alone, but we can also see the cost for the individual items inside our estimate. The columns in our estimate can be reordered to display and to view in the particular order that each user would like to view their estimate screen. It's very easy to copy and paste. Any item, subassembly, can be copied from the menu. We can copy the item and then we can go and paste it into another section, or we can insert it into another section. So there are many features and many ways of getting items, adding items, inserting items, transferring items between sections and between breakdowns. At any time, we can go to our Estimate section tab and we can see how many hours and once we've done our project price updating, we can actually see what our material cost is for this section. If we'd had subsections, below that we will actually see the total hours and total material for this section and any subsequent subsection underneath it, including equipment, including subcontractor. Also, at this level, we can do this at the power section or the estimate section. We can apply a labour difficulty factor. We can do that at a section level. We can also do that at a sub-assembly level. We can also do that at an individual item level. So once we have built our material list, the first thing that we would do is we would go to our price matrix. Our price matrix now will give us a breakdown of all of our materials and allows us to send that to a spreadsheet. From that spreadsheet, we could send it off to our suppliers and ask our suppliers to give us a project price for this estimate. So that can go off to 1 or 2 suppliers. When they come back in, we can have a look, get our chosen one. From there, we can go to import that supplier pricing. We can go and find the spreadsheet that we want to use. We can double click on it. Espro 7 will automatically bring that project pricing in. It will automatically enable the project pricing checkbox. Espro 7 will automatically apply the project price to each of the items. It will also enable the checkbox. And what it has now done, it has gone back into the estimate. It has found where each of these items have been used and have updated the price to the net project price for each of those items. When we view any of our items, we could look inside any of our pre-built sub-assemblies or items, and we can now see that our project price button has been checked. So we now know that the material price that we're looking at is a net price that we have set for this estimate. So once we've built our estimate, we have finished building our estimate in sections and adding all the items, our subcontractors, our material items, our pieces of equipment. We can move along and add our estimate costs. So we can add as many estimate costs that we want to allow for this, and we can break them up into our provisionals, prime costs, overheads, sundries and contingencies. But we could break it if we wanted to add more than what comes with Espro 7. We can add new estimate costs ourselves. From there, we can add unit rates. So we could add any subassembly, pre-built subassembly, material items, and create a unit rate for that. And from there, we can, in our summary screen, we can actually add our sell price and our deduction price for any of these unit rates within the estimate. We can create estimate breakdowns. So we can create we can create 5 different breakdown sections, and then at each breakdown we can have as many breakdowns as required. What this allows us to do with Espro 7 is we've built the estimate based on the tender documentation that we've been given, but we now want to separate this estimate and put it into the way that we may do the installation or the way that we may do our cost coding. So I can now go back to any items inside my section, and I could go down and say, okay, from my breakdown installation, I want to break down all of these, and I can now go through and select how I want to break these down. So I could break them down into any stage that I want. We could then break down maybe our subassembly here into, we want to break this off into cabling. And as I select a work breakdown for each of these subassemblies, it will automatically apply it to the items within inside that subassembly. And we could look at as part of our reporting in Espro 7, we can get a report based on the estimate sections and the material and labour components, equipment components, subcontractor components, or we can actually get a report based on the work breakdown, and it will break down all of those items into these stages or however we've set that up. Once we've built our estimate, we can go to the summary. Now the summary in Espro 7 is a very powerful and flexible tool. The first screen we would see is our top sheet, our front sheet, where we can see a summary of all that's going on. But before we look at this, we might want to go through our different sections. We might want to go and add some material markup, subcontractor markup, or equipment markup on a stage level. If we don't want to do it on an estimate breakdown level, we can do it as a gross markup just on the markups tab. At this section here, we can also apply a labour difficulty factor on a section basis at this level rather than back at the estimate level itself. So as you can see for lighting, we've put a labour difficulty factor of 1.2. So instead of using 148 hours, we are using 178 hours. We can go to our allocated hours. We can now take those hours. We had 668 hours. We can now break those hours over as many labour allocations as we want. So this could be broken down into tradesmen and apprentice, as we've done in this example. It could be broken down into people's names, or it could be broken up into teams. So we've broken it up. What it's then done is it's recalculated our cost and said our true cost on an average is $83.10. At the section level here, at the allocated hours level here, I can also set my sell price if I choose to, and it will recalculate my average gross hourly sell. I've chosen not to do it at this level. We've chosen to mark our labour up, again at our gross markup level. Indirect labour. On top of our takeoff hours, we now want to add some additional labour for administration. So I've said I'd like to allow 5% of the job. So it's allowed 33 hours for my administration. I've costed that at $32 an hour. I've also allowed a project manager. I've allowed 76 hours of a project manager and costed them at $75 an hour. We also can put markups on our costs if we choose to here. But we can go to our markups section. And from our markup sections, we can have as many markups as we prefer. So in this estimate, as it's an existing estimate, you can see that we've got a 12% markup on material. We've got a 30% markup on labour. We've got a subcontractor markup. We've got an additional direct labour markup. But we've only decided to put that on our indirect labour. And because we've already sent this job off to somebody, and the client has said that this job, if we can get the job below 300,000, then it's ours. So what we've done is we've come into the markups tab, and we've been, with our enterprise version, we've been able to put a reduction of 9,750. We want that to apply against material and labour. That's a discount or a reduction of 6.59%. And what that has now done is that's now brought our sale price below, our sell price, our tender price below the $300,000. We can have a look and see what our material, labour, indirect labour, subcontractor and equipment and cost profit is. We can see the total profit of the job, and we can see what our margin is. So we've got a lot of flexibility and some real professional opportunities with our summary screen to tweak it to come out with the accurate figure that we want. One of the features in Espro 7 is we have the ability to do multiple summaries. So we can click new summaries, and each of those summaries can be used for doing what if calculations. So if we just wanted to do a what if we put X% across the whole project, how does it look? Or if we're doing the same tender for multiple clients, we could actually use these, and it could be client 1, client 2, client 3, and we could put the client details in the report. Espro comes with a list of professional reports. These reports have been designed and developed by electrical estimators and estimators, but it also comes with a report writer so that you could develop your own reports, or you could come back to Spearhead Software and we could develop reports for you. Once the estimate has been won and you're happy with the figures and you don't want anyone else to touch it, this estimate can be locked, and only those with permissions will be able to unlock it. So we could say, yes, we now want to lock this. When we go back into our sections, the items now will still be able to be viewed, but if we try to edit any of these items, we will not be able to edit anything because it has been locked. Thank you for taking the time to have a look at the feature presentation for Espro 7. If you'd like a more detailed online presentation of the software, going through things like the parts list, the price book where you put your labour and your equipment and subcontractors, your sub-assemblies where you can put your pre-built kits or pre-build rates, please contact Spearhead Software on 08 9390 8900, or please see your screen for the email address sales@spearhead.com.au, or where you've just seen this video presentation, just to the right of the screen there will be a button that says Request Online Presentation. Please click on that button, fill in your details, and a representative for Spearhead Software will give you a call to arrange a suitable time.